Alright, so this is a video on my first step of how to improve any business. Mostly applies to people struggling with fulfillment. It's how to build a company brain or company map of your processes. So basically, it's kind of like stage one. It's like the diagnosis of your business. It's akin to going to the doctor and them taking your blood and looking at all the information that comes from that. It's kind of giving visibility into what is actually happening. And that's one of the key points. It matters what's actually happening, not how you want it to happen or how it should happen or how you told someone it would happen. It's how it's actually happening right now, because that just provides way better information. Because there's a reason why it's happening the way that it's happening. And the easiest way to get good results is to get someone who doesn't know a lot about your business, because they won't be biased to shifting things towards how it should be happening or whatever. They're just going to get the actual truth of what's happening, which is what you are looking for in the first place. So jumping over to Lucidchart, this is a template we use internally. You would just start with a blank tab, and I could just start you off with a little example so you kind of see how it works. So say you were doing onboarding. To pick where to start, onboarding is easy, or you start with just a high volume process in your business. So a classic start is like verbal close, and then you'd move to you'd send contract through whatever software you use, like PandaDoc, and then maybe you do nothing until they sign. So like maybe you actually wait. You have a decision tree here, and you wait. You do nothing until they sign, or maybe not. Maybe you actually also simultaneously at the same time you're requesting payment. And this brings up an interesting point, and that's, are your processes happening in parallel, or are they happening like sequentially, like one after the other in series? It actually makes quite a big difference, so that's something to really pay attention to. So continuing with this example, maybe next is maybe the thing that you're waiting for is sign to happen and the pay to happen. So you just have them both, and you wait for both things to happen. Something useful is using using no. So what happens what do you do if this doesn't happen? Are you following up? How often are you following up? That's something important. But then let's say everything goes well. You've signed, they've signed, they've paid. Things are moving forward. Maybe the next thing you do is invite them to Slack, or maybe you send them a welcome email. Maybe it's both things happening at the same time. And then maybe the next important stage is the client joining Slack, and also filling out the onboarding form. Then maybe you do kickoff call, and then you start fulfillment after this. So this would be like a very oversimplified example of some sort of classic onboarding flow. But the next important thing that you want to make sure you're keeping track of is who's responsible for what. So something that's useful is to do like a little legend. It's like, okay, the CSM, the owner, maybe there's a VA involved, and you can just literally fill them in with colors and be like, okay, CSM's green, so they're gonna do the green step, and let's make the owner red. And you can get the owner is doing the red thing, and you just make sure that you're tracking who is doing these things and making sure that it's not two people doing it. And if it is, you can add a note saying, hey, there's two people doing this right now. That is an existing problem. That's also a useful thing, is to add notes specific to how these things work, like details about they invite them to Slack, or when you create the Slack channel, what's the Slack channel name, just things to simplify, so what's actually happening. And you can also attach links to these as well, so you can link a specific SOP on how you follow up or what your process is there. So then once you have this complete, what you want to look at next is you want to review it once you have it. So you want to does the order in which it's happening make sense? Can you pull tasks forward? It's always a good idea to pull tasks as early as possible, obviously within reason. Things around payment, what do you do? will you work before you get paid? How much work will you do before you get paid? That's really important to define. Who owns the task, like I was saying, and then also what tools do you use for it? Does it need to exist at all? Is it just a legacy thing that you're doing just for fun? Is it just because of the way it is? It's always worth time to really analyze it and be thorough. You can throw notes on here, add context. When you think of opportunities, you can jot them down as well. And then you're going to want to do this for every entity in your business. So every noun in your business, basically. You want to make a tab. Don't do a monster map of the entire thing. It's going to get chaotic. People are going to get confused. Do a noun. So this would be like a client onboarding. You could do another one for an invoice or a team member or a campaign. It's things that are nouns that you want to do for each tab, and then it's the noun moving through the process. That's how you want to think about it. It's process management. It's much simpler that way, and it'll just make things a lot easier for you. And then just one more thing I would mention is try to keep track of what is the critical path or the path that kind of holds things up, so you know when you're actually doing tasks, if it matters that it happens very quickly or if it doesn't matter at all because of the way the timing works out. And just forcing yourself to do this simple exercise, you'd be surprised about how many things you're doing that don't really make sense, or it just becomes very obvious as you're mapping it out. It's weird the way you're doing something. It's easy to switch it, and you can kind of use this as a reference, as a source of truth for your team to make sure everybody's on the same page.